Buongiorno ragazzi! Today's lesson is about the verb avere. Buongiorno ragazzi! Today's lesson is about the verb avere. Here it is right here, avere. Avere means to have. You've already used avere when you learned how to ask how old somebody is, because in Italian, instead of saying literally how old are you, you say how many years do you have? And then when you respond, you say I have, and then the number of years. For example, if I asked you how old are you, I'd say quanti anni hai? Now, you might not have heard anything that sounds quite like this word right here, avere, in my question, because the conjugations of avere are irregular, so they don't necessarily sound like the actual root verb. And when I respond to that question, I say io ho 12 anni. I have 12 years. Okay, so like I mentioned, avere is an irregular verb, and that means that you need to memorize those conjugations. There are only 6, which isn't too many, and they do not follow the ending patterns of regular ERE verbs, which we already learned about, where you would drop the ERE, and then you would just apply the O, E, A endings. That is not going to work here with the verb avere. So here are the conjugations of avere. I'll write them in for you. Okay, the io conjugation is o. And as you've heard this verb before, and we talked about it when we talked about quanti anni hai, io ho 12 anni, even though there's a letter H in front of this conjugation, it's completely silent. The letter H in Italian when it's at the start of the word, which is very, very uncommon, but when it does happen, like in some of these conjugations, you don't pronounce it at all. So the to form is I. Once again with a completely silent H. So io ho, tu hai. Lui, lei, ha. Io ho, tu hai, lui, lei, ha. Noi abbiamo. So we have no H in this conjugation. And sorry, I'm writing this a little slow. Okay, I'm trying to use the trackpad. Okay. Noi abbiamo. And I know it's a little ugly, but that's an M. Noi abbiamo. Voi avete. Voi avete. And loro, one more with the silent H. Loro hanno. Okay, so just to point out, many verbs in Italian happen to follow a certain pattern. Avere is one of them. And an easy way that you can remember this pattern is that Italy, the country, is shaped kind of like a boot. So when you see certain types of verbs, you'll notice that the conjugations follow this boot pattern. And here's the boot. So the io, tu, lui, lei, and loro conjugations fit in the boot, and they all start with the H. The noi and the voi forms have in common the fact that they do not start with H, they start with A. Okay, so noi abbiamo and voi avete. All right, and we talked about this. The H at the beginning of these forms here is silent. Okay, and when you want to say somebody's age, like we talked about, you use avere. For example, lui ha 13 anni. He's 13 years old, but literally he has 13 years. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a chance to practice some of these conjugations on your own. In this video, you'll have a chance to respond and you'll get to see the correct answers. So what I'd like you to do is try to answer them in the video first. And once you've chosen an answer and seen the correct response, I'd like you to write it down on your matching note sheet. Okay, so please make sure if you didn't fill in as we went the conjugations for avere, make sure to go back, re-listen to them, and write them in on your sheet. And then I'd like you to come on down here and we're going to try these 8 together. Click your answers in the side panel first, and then you can copy down the correct answers onto your note sheet. In bocca al lupo.